What is going on, guys? It's been quite some time since I've made a video on helicopters, specifically a helicopter of this caliber. Now this is the Mi-24D. It's the premium one you get with Russia. Now today's gameplay is in sim, but I kind of just want to talk about this helicopter in general. I was having fun testing it out in sim. I finally got the hang of it. As you can see here, not so much right in the beginning. There is two different types of stabilization mode in sim for this specific helicopter, and they're not that bad. They're really not that bad at all. All you have to do is you press H, kind of like auto hover in RB, but one is dampening, the other is leveling. So auto dampening is it controls like the left and right motions of your helicopter, I believe, like the roll axis. So it'll keep it level in that sense, and then the hover will keep the actual helicopter level, so you can't pitch it. It'll just keep it going either forward or backward momentum. Now sim in a helicopter like this is really fun considering it has a gun sight, so you actually switch different perspectives from the gunner and the pilot. Sorry about my phone in the background, which is really cool, and I genuinely enjoy that. Now sim, the feel of the helicopters is alright. Of course I'm using mouse joystick and not an actual joystick. I do have one for those who say, hey, just get a Logitech. Hey, why don't you ever I have one. I have a track IR as well. I just am too lazy to set it up at this current stage in time. I feel like moving my desk around in this room, and when I do that entire swap of cleaning the entire desk off, de-dusting everything and whatnot, I'll probably set up my track IR, and so you could possibly see some more sim games. Maybe I'll get back into DCS, but that's neither here nor there. I wanted to talk about helicopters. Now, you're probably on one side of the fence if you're watching this video. They're either OP to you or you enjoy using them. There's not really an in-between, at least not from the vocal minority. People who talk about helicopters, I'm sure there are some people who just say, ah, fuck it, it's just one more thing to shoot. But, you know, they do have some attributes and some skills that are really hard to deal with when you're not in the appropriate vehicle or in certain parts of the match. Now in ARB this isn't as I don't know how to say this, because certain matches can render helicopters completely useless, especially with how we use them. We don't have many countermeasures from the ground aside from range finding and shooting a normal gun. Of course I get my fair share of that, but I understand that not everybody wants to waste a ton of APFSDS shells at top tier at shooting down helicopters. I'm just a crazy bastard who loves to do that. And the second thing is you get ATGMs, which are pretty easy, relatively easy to shoot down aircraft. Not just helicopters. You can shoot down planes with these things too. A little bit harder, albeit it's a way harder difficulty to shoot down planes with an ATGM, but you can do it nonetheless. Now, the opposite of that is being in a helicopter. You can feel like you have complete control on a battlefield without any planes up, but as soon as a plane comes up, you have the biggest headache of your life, is how am I going to deal with this plane? Of course, there are certain helicopters that can deal with planes easier. The H-1Z is one of those, the Mi-24V. They get air-to-air missiles. They get pretty good guns that can shoot down helicopters, or shoot down other helicopters, shoot down other planes. And you also get ATGMs, obviously, so you can do that. But in RB, you can't spawn ATGMs straight off the bat. So that's why I say it's kind of different, right? So you could have somebody who takes an M22, rushes a cap, gets an assist, gets another cap maybe or something, spawns in an H1Z fully loaded, and at their fingertips, within 2 minutes, is the possibility of killing 16 people. Does it ever work out that way? Not really. But even 5 tanks down due to 1 helicopter is a massive pain in the ass. And the amount of RP you get for that, or spawn points I should say, for getting that, is just insane. You can spawn back in whatever you want after doing that short period of time. And then what you're also doing is taking 5 tanks off the front line of the actual progressive battlefield that's going on below you, and it just makes it easier for the rest of your Abrams, in this case the H1Z for example. Makes it way easier for the rest of the Abrams on your team to spawn camp, kill people coming out of the spawn and whatnot. So I think in the future of helicopters, what I'd like to see, maybe a little bit better helicopter controls. I don't think they're there yet. I think they need to be fine-tuned just a tad bit to make them seem a little bit more realistic. But on top of that, I would like more countermeasures for helicopters. And I don't mean countermeasures as in flares from the helicopters. We already have those. I want SAMs. I want some type of lock-on air-to-ground or ground-to-air missile that can take out a helicopter and really forces the helicopters to play to their strengths. And what they do in real life is they're able to fly extremely low in between geological formations such as mountains and valleys, and actually use their helicopter that way. So being sneaking up to the other side of the battlefield, popping up, launching maybe 2 ATGMs, and then getting out of there. And I think that would be really, really fun. It would add a nice dynamic to the game. Of course, there is a balancing issue, but you know, there's a balancing issue currently with helicopters. As much as I enjoy them, as much as I use them, I'm not afraid to admit that there is a balancing issue. I have had games where I get completely smoked by helicopters for no reason, and I've had games where I completely dominate helicopters for no reason. So I think that there needs to be some type of price for that reward of the chopper. There needs to be a price that you might have to pay, which is possibly getting locked on and having to evade a missile coming from the ground that can end your entire game. But this doesn't just change one thing. This also changes the notions of choppers if this was added, right? So everybody that I see using choppers, they don't care about flying low. They don't care about being sneaky. They don't care about using their chopper to maneuver around the battlefield and get a different shot on people. All they care about is how many they can kill, how fast. So they just fly as high as possible over the battlefield and sit stagnant. So something like that, it would really diminish that type of play, and it would make helicopters not only harder to spot, harder to find, harder to kill. It would make the battlefield seem a little bit more realistic, whereas the planes are the ones that are high up dealing with you know, other planes, and the choppers are lower to the ground using hills and stuff to cover their exits and finding ways in and out of the battlefield. Now I do think some maps could be catered to help helicopters if this was to happen and they are to add ground-to-air missiles. And I'm not really talking about the implication of these missiles against planes, but it would be something that we'd have to worry about. You can no longer, at top tier, if this was a thing, take props into a top tier battle. I have zero issue with that. I don't think you should be bringing props in anyway, but I do understand why people do. It's so much grinding to get to a top tier plane or a top tier jet that would even have flares or have some sort of countermeasure that it would almost, you know, it takes so long. You might have the tanks, you might just have the planes, you might not have both. And I get that, and I understand that. And that's why I kind of want to talk about one other thing real quick before we end this video and I get on with the stream. What if there was a game mode in War Thunder? Now this is hypothetical, obviously. I do want it, but I want your guys' opinion on it. What if there was a game mode in War Thunder which allowed everybody to have a spaded and aced tank at top tier, right? So, for example, we'll use current vehicles in the game. Let's say every single person on the American team or the NATO team would have a top tier tank, a top tier IFV, and they're both spaded, completely aced with the cruise, a top tier helicopter, a top tier jet, and maybe a backup tank, not as strong. So for, in this example, let's say an MBT-70. So a nice 5-vehicle lineup where you could truly experience top tier. And I would like to make it high risk, high reward. If you lost the game, you probably wouldn't get that much. But if you won the game, you would get a good amount of RP towards grinding your actual tiered vehicles. And this could be in an event playlist, maybe only on the weekends you could play this. But it'd be reminiscent of the April Fool's event that we all know and love with the Leopard 2 A5s and the Apache, and what else was in that? The T90 with a Hind. I think that would be really, really fun and a really interesting way to add a new game mode that, you know, you could even do better rewards for a game mode like this. So without talking too much about my ideas, just lay the groundwork in you guys' brains, and you can comment on what you think that would play out like. Do you think you'd enjoy that? I'm not saying get rid of normal RB. I know some people are going to put words in my mouth. None of that. I'm solely talking about a new game mode that you could queue into that would be separate from what we have already. And you'd have access to spaded vehicles at top tier, but it's a set thing. And you could do it for any tier. I wouldn't have a problem if, you know, did it at low tier. Tigers and Panthers versus Shermans and Pershings, you know, all completely spaded for people with P-47s and BF-110 backups and whatnot. They could even be time appropriate. But it depends, and they could even have weighing odds. All right, I'm getting too into it. I know you guys get the idea. Let me know. If you want to watch a War Thunder stream, feel free to click the link in the description down. Oh, excuse me. Feel free to click the link in the description down below. I will be live when this video goes live. And on top of that, P.O. Box is also down in the description down below. So feel free to check that out if you want to send anything and be featured on a mail time. Just make sure you address it to slickbee. And, yep, that'll be it. So I will see you guys, hopefully, in a couple minutes on the stream. If not, have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace, peace.